And one thing I want to mention is you mentioned the anthology about folk music, and I saw a post. I think it was on Instagram where maybe it's the back of a book cover, but it said what is a folk song, and what is in a folk song. It asked that question. Love, both lost and found, laughter and tears, running away and coming home again, defeat and victory, loneliness, hope, despair, religion, and adventure. So,
It's everything. It's life, right? All the, yeah,
but where do you see? I don't know if you agree with this, but where do you see kind of the folk tradition these days in terms of obviously we've had
it's yeah.
Woody Guthrie and Bob Dylan and those kinds of people, but
No, I mean to me, folk. I mean the yeah, folk music. It means so many things to so many different people, and that's just the way it is, and it kind of sometimes drives me crazy because, in Holland, it's different when you say I play folk music, and when I say that to somebody in the States, or if I say that to somebody in Scotland or what. It's just a real different feeling what people have about folk music. But to me personally, I don't. Yeah, I just have my own little definition of folk music, which is just music that's not necessarily a certain genre, but it's just kind of music that has its roots in stuff that's just kind of been around forever that just people play. And so I kind of actually I always love to think about my music as something that people could, if they wanted to, like play and do play for other people, or do versions of which happens every once in a while. It's so nice when somebody does a version of my song. It's like, oh, cool, But it's kind of music that's sort of, I feel like, is for can reach a lot of people on a certain level. I mean, it's obviously not top 40, mass, for the masses, but but I do think a lot of people respond to that kind of thing.
well, it does make sense what you say now. The kind of idea of it being passed down from generation to generation, kind of in an oral tradition type of way, where I mean, I can see how that worked in the 30s, 40s, and kind of passing down that
Yeah,
music.
for sure. Yeah, back then, yeah. Now it's passed through social media mostly,
Well,
but back then it was really, yeah.
But is there, because well, you mentioned living in America for a while, and an EP came out of that, which kind of focused on whatever's going on over there. Um, so, what was your mindset then going into Estranged? Was that something you just had to get off your chest so you can kind of?
The EP about
Yeah.
yeah, that was something I had to get off my chest for sure. I did kind of the protest song EP, and it was a little bit tongue in cheek and all that. I just couldn't not do that because I noticed that after Trump was elected, then I had this like. Yeah, it was some weird thing where before I'd never written protest songs or political songs at all, really, and this sort of came out at a party or something, some things, and then I don't know. Suddenly I had like 10 protest sort of songs, I guess you could say, and I did like a show of mostly protest songs, and then those just sort of disappeared. Then I thought, okay, there's a couple that I'll save for the EP, or a few, so there are 3 songs on the EP, and yeah, that's just like a one-off digital EP release thing of my time and reflection of my time in the States, So, but then the Estranged album that's coming out now, that's more of a pretty clear next step kind of thing. Next out, that was kind of all along. I was thinking, okay, what next after A Tree Fell and other songs, the last album. I figure I could do something that's. I'm not going to try to do some major departure, but I think I could use people that I've met, some of these musicians in the States, to do recordings there, and then combine that with my favorite producer, Kramer, who comes. So it was a nice little collage, a combination of those two worlds in a way, and yeah, that's how it turned out to be. Actually, that was not the big plan, but it sort of turned into that, yeah.
Yeah, well, kind of going back to this, you have an interesting look on it, I suppose, because you live here now. If you lived in Europe, so what made you go back to the US?
Well, that was sort of a fluke thing. Well, because my wife had a job opportunity there, and we thought, why not? Because I can do pretty much my work. Anywhere, I thought, at least that's my, I thought, okay, I have to kind of make a big effort, start over in a way there with a new try to get a new fan base and things in the States. You know. But so that was a bit of a struggle for me. But it in the end, it was really great. But we were only there a year and a half, and by the time I really started playing venues I loved and started getting a little more of a fan base, then it was like, oh, sorry, gotta go. So it's pretty awful. But yeah, that was all along. The idea was to stay for a year and a half. Longer maybe if some big thing happened, but it was you know, we were all kind of ready to, in the end, to come back to the state to Holland. We had rented out our place here and everything, so that was all kind of like shifting gears to get back into things here and everything. Yeah, so
that's interesting then, because well, you mentioned the cellist on Gorey's story, but then on the final track, Hey, That's No Way to Say Goodbye, there's a female voice.
Oh yeah.
So and you mentioned meeting those people in America. Was that one of them? Somebody you met there?
Yeah, that was really. That sounds cheesy, but I just got chills thinking about it. No, because I wasn't really looking for. I wasn't necessarily looking for certain people. I just went to a lot of shows and open mic, you know, just to kind of see if I could respond to some, you know, music that people write there, and I did. And there was this one woman who just kind of blew me away when she was singing her material at some concert, and I just listened to her voice, and I thought to myself, this has never happened before. I thought to myself, oh, I can just hear my voice harmonizing really well with her voice, but not basing that on anything, just sort of feeling. It was really strange, and sure enough, it really worked out well. But the funny thing is, I went up to her after her show, and I said, hey, this is kind of crazy, but I liked your set a lot, and I was wondering if you want to just like sing some of these songs with me or whatever at some point. And she said, sure, I know who you are. I saw you at this. And I was like, oh, really? Okay. And it turned out that she had just moved from New Mexico, and I said, oh, we're in New Mexico, Albuquerque, and I said, oh, I know one person in Albuquerque, and she goes, oh, really, who? And it turns out she knew the only person. She said, he helped me with my musical career and everything. Yeah, her name, yeah. She's Meredith Wilder is just a kind of godsend at some point. But unfortunately, that was close to when we had to leave, and so I was very upset because you know, if it were up to me, I would have loved to just done a whole lot of shows with her. Yeah.
But a song like that, was it already written?
That's a Leonard Cohen song. Yeah, that's
okay.
That's the only cover I've ever recorded. Actually, it's Dusty Stray. That's an old from the first Leonard Cohen album. So that's just a song that I've had around my head forever. And I thought it would be so nice. And, you know, actually, he died. You know, after he died, I was thinking, yeah, now is maybe the time to do a Leonard Cohen song and on an album. And I came up with that idea. And she it was so strange. We just did it like in a few takes, but just live takes, which I don't usually do that way. And it really felt great. Yeah. To see, yeah.
And the rest of the album, do you remember which song you started with, or which song kind of started off the whole process for Estranged?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, let me think. Yeah, maybe. I think it's the one. It's the song called "Things Will Look Different," and it's. It's funny because I was watching a documentary on Paul Williams. Do you know Paul Williams? Well, it's it's in the documentary. It's all about that. A lot of people don't really realize who he is, but he wrote all these insane hits in the 60s, 70s. Like a lot of the Carpenters hits, like you know, we've only just begun. All that, but also, I can't even think. But just tons of songs that everybody seems to know, you know, around the world. And this documentary was all about how he just sort of disappeared, and then it was rediscovered through this documentary and things. And anyway, I watched that. I was really fascinated by that documentary, and just listening to his music and the way he talks about writing a song and things. It's strange, but after that documentary, I just came up with this song basically. So not that it's anything like Paul Williams, but Things Will Look Different is just a sad kind of, you know, tearjerker kind of broken relationship song, but it sort of came quickly. I always like it when a song kind of comes really fast, and then I thought, okay, so maybe this could be the start of the new album. That was in the States when that happened, and then just things sort of started happening after that.
Because when you write a song like this, do kind of and you start thinking of creating an album, do the other songs you start writing kind of gravitate towards that feeling or that sentiment, or can they be completely?
It's not really that. It's not like I plan on how these songs. Already thinking about which song. It's just that it's sort of, I'm in a certain mood or something, and these things happen. And then later I look at what there is to choose from, or sometimes I have recordings on my iPhone, just like like ideas or something. Usually just a tune that I record, and then I'm like later listening to that, like, oh, that's really a great tune. I should write some words to that, or that kind of thing. So then that comes. So it's kind of a bit of a funny process where it's not one song a consecutive kind of thing at all.
Right.
It's just later that comes in about which songs to put with where, that kind of thing. Yeah.
So with that in mind, then, when you wrote a song like "Window," what kind of mood were you in?
"Window" is this song about that was. Well, that came as a. I think that was a tune first, and then I was alone. I was alone out in the middle of nowhere, and I guess trying to think of some words for that, and I somehow flashed onto these images or memories of these recurring nightmares I had as a small child, like when I was like 5 years old, maybe, or something. 6 years old, and but I remember these still, like 5 or 6. I just remember they were just the worst nightmares I'd ever had in my life. After that, nothing really happened, but I just remember going to sleep every night and looking out my window, and there was always this guy. It was all quiet, and you first see some ivy on the side. It's just kind of nice, pleasant. Looking out, watching. Looking out the window, and then suddenly out of nowhere, this guy would just come up and go, and just like terror. Like that, and I would close my eyes, and it was and then I'd open them, and he'd be gone, and then he'd come again, whatever. And I was convinced that it was real, but of course, whatever. But it was just this happened over and over, and I don't know why, whatever. But it freaked me out, and so it's kind of about that. And there's a reference to Mary Hartman, which is Mary Hartman. Mary Hartman was this sitcom made by Norman Lear, the guy who did All in the Family and all these shows. But it was on late at night when I would go to bed, and then I would hear that show start, because my parents always wanted me to be in bed because of the heavy adult themes of that sitcom, and so I was in bed, and I would always fall asleep hearing Mary Hartman, which was the way it started. It was every intro to that show was Mary Hartman. So that's what the reference, ridiculous reference, but I threw that in just for myself for fun,
But that's very interesting that something like that then comes back as you write or think of.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that is funny when I try to remember what was. Yeah.
Because in that sense, is it very very. This sounds weird, maybe, but subconscious. The kind of it's only maybe now after the album is complete that you can kind of go,
sure,
oh, but this is good. This relates to this, and I was thinking
I think
that.
So. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think that's nice. Yeah.
The title then, Estranged. When did it become clear to you that had to be the title?
Well, I had written a song. Which now is called Houses for that album, and it was originally called Estranged, the song was, but then I Googled, this is so stupid, but I Googled the song Estranged to see how many songs out there were, and the first thing that came up was there's a Guns N' Roses song called Estranged, and I thought, well, maybe I should call it something else, this song. So then later I checked out album titles, and I don't think I found too many. Anyway, so I decided the album should be called Estranged, and that song should be called Houses, or whatever. But then I thought it really looked nice, or sounded nice. Dusty Straight, Estranged is sort of like, so it's also, I kind of like the way it sounds, I guess. And the word, I really think it's just a fantastic word. It's just, Yeah,
I was going to ask, so the song that now is called Houses, what was the motivation in terms of the word estranged for that song?
That sort of just slipped, or just sort of came out like that. It just sort of seemed like there's a end of a chorus, and it ends with the word estranged. We become estranged, and it just I don't know, seemed natural to have that word there. But then later I was thinking about what a nice word that is, and then even like thinking about how I had just been in the States, and
Right.
and I had been, before we moved back to my own country, to the States. I had been living in Europe already for so many years, and I kind of felt weird living in my own country again. And I'd visited many times, of course, but living is a whole different thing. And yeah, I felt a bit estranged, like not sure where I fit in and things. And so there's a bit of that too. I mean, for me, it's just kind of a little side thing. Like, oh yeah, I felt
I mean,
that way.
if you look at the rest, I can still pretend you're here tonight. That kind of can refer to estrangement and that kind of stuff. So it does fit, so to say.
Yeah, I guess.
At least that's what I.
Yeah,
thought.
good. If that works, good.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your
Oh,
time.
you're so welcome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good questions.